Hello everybody. I know you weren't expecting to see me so soon after us putting up our other video this morning. I just want to do some clarifications as far as I'm able to. I have gotten so many emails the past couple of weeks regarding the information being spread around about the governing body named in a lawsuit and subpoenaed. And I thought it would probably, just be easier to do a video explaining a few things. So disclaimer, I am not a lawyer. I'm not a paralegal. I've had no legal training. But I have the original complaint that was filed in this case and a lot of questions that you guys have been sending me. And so with the help of legal definitions, hopefully I can clarify this. All right, the first question was, were the governing body subpoenaed? Short answer, no. And I know many of you have been sending me links with dozens of videos of some in the XJW community trying to explain this, and the governing body been subpoenaed, they don't show up, they're going to jail and going to prison. No. So I hope this clears up some of the misinformation going around. And so anyway, like I said, I have the original complaint here. And I want to thank everybody who's been helping me, sending me this information. And thank you guys for, sending these questions and asking me. Because I don't claim to have all the answers, but at least you're wanting to find out what is really going on and the truth. Okay? Is the governing body going to testify? We don't know. Now, this is the original summons or complaint is case number 507-114-2025 in the Kings County Supreme Court of New York. Okay? Now, named as plaintiffs at the top, first thing, governing body. Watchtower Bible Tract Society of New York, Christian Congregation Jehovah's Witnesses, and John and Jane Doe's 1 through 75. Now, when lawyers do that, Jane and John Doe's 1 through 100 or whatever, that means that they have the right to later add a name to the complaint. Now, it says summons right here. And some may not understand what the legal term summons means. So I'm going to read the legal definition. In legal terms, a summons is a formal notice informing someone that they are being sued or are required to appear in court. It serves as a notification, giving the recipient the opportunity to respond and participate in the legal proceedings. A summons is typically issued by a court and served on the defendant, usually along with a complaint, a document outlining the claims against them. So, all that being said and done. So that's all this is. This is just a notice to the defendants that they are being sued. And yes, the governing body is named first. And the governing body has been named as defendants in several other court cases, so this is nothing new. And hopefully I can clear up some of the misinformation. I want to go to the legal definition of subpoena. Now, in this legal breakdown here, there are 3 different types. There might be more, but, we're doing the layman's, easy, basic ones. There is the subpoena, I'm not even going to try that Latin word, requires a person to appear and testify. Now, this particular subpoena is the one that everybody seems to be saying the governing body have been subpoenaed, okay? Subpoena duces tecum, requires a person to produce documents or other tangible evidence. See, and if being the big word, they were subpoenaed, we don't know which one. Then the third one is the deposition subpoena. Requires a person to appear for a deposition testimony under oath outside of court. Now, many have asked, will the governing body go to prison if they refuse to testify? Well, like I said, I'm not a lawyer, but here in the United States, as far as, most court cases, just giving an opinion here, in my opinion, if a person is named as a defendant in a court case, even if they're a plaintiff, even if they were subpoenaed or summoned, because those are two different things, if they are a litigant involved in this case, they have the right to plead the fifth. And for those of you that don't know, it's like, I refuse to answer on the grounds that it may incriminate me. So even if the governing body was subpoenaed, which, at this early stage, it would be highly unlikely for them to be subpoenaed since they have the summons and by now the original complaint against them. And with there being so many defendants named in this lawsuit, like I said, I find it highly unlikely that they would have been subpoenaed. And I can't find anything in the documents that they were subpoenaed. This original paperwork with the summons and the complaint are the only things I can find at this point. And so, for everybody, who's been asking these questions, I hope this helps clear things up. That at this point, there's actually no evidence that they have been subpoenaed. And since they are named as the top defendant, all they have to do is plead the fifth. No one can be compelled to testify that is going to incriminate them. Unfortunately, that's the law of the land here in the United States, that no one can compel you to testify to incriminate yourself. So, like I said, even if the governing body does testify, all they have to do is say, I plead the fifth. I plead the fifth. They can sit there all day and every single question say, I plead the fifth. So at this point, I doubt that they are going to be testifying because, like I said, there's no evidence whatsoever of any subpoenas. And usually in court cases, other witnesses are subpoenaed to come testify. Now, Mike and I were talking about this morning. If someone gets a subpoena for Congress, that's totally different than the court of law. Court of law is different. And if you don't show up when you are subpoenaed, you could be held in contempt of court. We've seen that. If you're been subpoenaed to testify before Congress and you don't show up and say, I plead the fifth, I'm not showing up, they can hold you in contempt of Congress. I know, a lot of legal stuff, and the general public, most of us, we have no idea about all of the legalese and these laws and stuff. I've been very fortunate that I am friends with several lawyers and paralegals who help me with all of this stuff. And so, I hope this clears it up, the difference between subpoena and summons. And like I said, when you look on this, and I know many have sent me the link to avoidjw.gov, and the article they've written, and they have a link that says complaint, and you can get it. And this just names who the plaintiff, and actually the plaintiff is D.L. Doe, so we don't even know the real name of the plaintiff, which would be the victim. And this is a bad case. It's a bad case, and it sounds similar to the one we covered a few years ago. And if this, we're hoping this all comes out and a lot of this stuff will be exposed. But like we've mentioned before, it's nothing to get excited about. And no, the governing body have not been subpoenaed to court. They're not going to prison at this moment. And the summons and the complaint just let them know they're being sued. They were probably served. Usually here in the United States, they are served with these papers either personally by there's usually like companies that will serve a person, or a sheriff. The sheriff's department can serve papers also. I don't know, each state may be different. But like I said, and for any in the future, if you want to ask me questions, I'm not going to take the time to answer each individual person. I'm going to say just look it up. Just Google it. You can look up any legal term. A lot of these law universities have an entire library full of legal dictionaries, and that's where lawyers go when they're writing these, court documents. They'll go to the legal law library and just search for this information, or online on Google. That's all I did, just to show you the difference. So, yeah. So just listen and don't be taken in by misinformation that a lot of the XJWs are putting out there and reposting, because for a defendant to be subpoenaed, rare. It's very rare. I haven't even heard of it in any of the court documents that I've seen. They can be asked to do an affidavit or a deposition, but once again, all they have to do is I plead the fifth. So thank you for watching, and you all have a wonderful day. Bye.